What's up friends, Liron here coming at you with another watercolor painting video. I thought I'd do this one in real time because I think it would be beneficial for some people, and lately all of my watercolor videos have been like narrated afterwards, and I just wanted to do one that's narrated like from the get-go, just talking to you real time. So what we're gonna do is paint this very simple landscape. I already have the drawing. I was actually listening to some awesome Game of Thrones music in the background while painting, and they're like, well, if I do it real time I can't listen to music, but I'll make that sacrifice for you guys. So I'm just gonna begin now. What I want to start with here is the sky. It's a very simple drawing actually. It's just a road going into the horizon line, and we have this small tiny teeny layer of trees in the background. So what I want to do is actually start with the wash for the sky. Let me show you what I'm doing. I'm just taking some of my ultramarine blue, or is it French ultramarine? I cannot tell the difference between the two, like ever. So I'm gonna mix a very bright mixture. The thing is, I want to sort of have enough of it to fill the sky with not too many issues. So I'm just gonna use a lot of pigment and then add tons of water, and I'm gonna test it here on my test page and see if it's bright enough. I think we can have it even a little lighter, and with the clouds, honestly, I'm just gonna wing it, and I think it will be good. Now I'm gonna grab a painting I did of this exact scene. I think I have it here, which was done on a really bad paper, or maybe it's not here. Just a second, I'm gonna find it. Yeah, here we have it. So I did one on a really bad paper, so I'm just gonna try and replicate it on a better one, on the arch. The previous one is, I don't know, I don't even remember what it was, but it's very thin and flimsy, and I don't like it. So anyway, I'm talking way too much. I'm gonna just start painting here. So first I'm gonna start with this line here on the top, just to start things. Now I'm gonna use the side of my brush, just because it plays with a shape that sort of resembles clouds, and it's a really good way to approach this. I like it. I learned it from, I don't remember the name. It's another YouTuber that I really like his method of work with watercolor. I'm gonna put a link, hopefully, in the description box, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just a really good painter. I really follow a lot of watercolor channels. Right now, just to let you know what I'm doing, I'm mixing in some burnt sienna into the blue, just to make a little of gray, and I'm gonna use that for the bottom part of the clouds here. Anyway, so what was I saying, man? Don't remember. Now, I'm just trying to work not too slow, because when I work slow, good things don't happen. I'm just gonna spray a bit like this here, and you see it sort of blends in parts of the cloud, and it's an effect I like to use, like that. And then you feel like some of the edges of the clouds are broken, which is really good. I may do it again in a few moments. And you'll notice how I'm taking the sky and I'm kind of going towards that line of the trees, and I will allow myself to go a little below it just to get some wet and wet action in a moment and have all the initial wash unified, because that's one of the major things I actually learned recently, is to have that initial wash really unified and not broken into different, just spraying this, really it's just fun. Have the initial wash not so broken into different parts, and yeah, luckily I have this green that I want on the palette from the previous painting, which is a really good example. I don't think I showed it too much, just using the color that's already on the palette, and I usually clean it because I'm just, honestly, I don't think I'm good enough to actually use the paint I already have many times. It just doesn't turn out the way I want it to, so I usually avoid doing it. But in this instance, I'm okay with it, because also it's a really simple landscape. I'm just gonna try and make it a little darker. I'm in a funny mood today. I was painting outside, doing some sketching here in the hood, in the neighborhood. If you're following me on Instagram or Snapchat, you probably saw some of that. I did some very simple urban sketching exercise. I just chose a house and began sketching it. So now what I want to do is be extra careful, because the thing is that this paint is going to start drying soon, and I want that wash to kind of merge with the ground here. I know a lot of people have different approaches to this type of merging stuff together, but I want it to merge together. So what I'm going to do is take some of the new gamboge, I think. Oh no, that's the wrong paint. I want this one. This one's the Daniel Smith. I'm going to mix it in. Really vibrant, really fun, really happy. I'm going to take a lot of it. And I'm going to add some water. Man, I'm like hyper today. Yeah, because, you know, with watercolor, that's the thing. You kind of have to work fast sometimes, which is something that sometimes scares people, but I don't know, I love it, actually. So, yeah, and you see it started to dry out. So this is why I think I'm gonna also make the paint a little purer. I'm gonna take a little more of the original orangey new gamboge. That's better. Now, of course, it's not gonna be perfect because it's mixing on the palette with some other paint, but that's fine. You just want the initial wash. Yeah, I was talking about it earlier. I just want it to be as even as possible, and it's something I didn't give enough attention to in the past. So you want to make sure it's sort of not broken into a million parts. Have all the different colors mixed together, it's perfectly fine. This is why also I'm working quite fast just to get it the way I want it to. Now I'm going to use the same mixture I used for the sky. I'm just going to make it a little more neutral, a little more brown, and use that just for the road. I'm going to do like that. I'm going to do it really simply. I'm going to pull some lines, and I'm really practicing sort of working fast and not worrying too much about all the tiny details, because it adds a lot of grace to paintings, I think. And now a cool trick is to just grab some water, actually dip your fingers into the bucket and just spray. And then you have this sort of a interesting texture. Of course, it's possible that I just destroyed the painting. But who knows, you know, we're just gonna have to wait and see. One thing I do wanna do here is sort of add a little more of the burnt, oh no, not burnt, it's sepia. Just add a little bit of sepia to that yellowish kind of thing, and make this area a little darker, because there's a lot of things going on here. There's like sort of blades of, I'm not sure what it is. Just gonna add some of it here, and also to the other side, like that, close to the edge of the field, just to add this nice effect. And I think let's get rid of those white spaces here. I don't want them, but I will add some more of the sepia into this, like that, just to define, help it sort of connect everything. It's a really simple landscape, you know, not too many details in here, so I'm allowing myself to work rather fast on this one. I left a few highlights here and there, but it's fine. Now what we want to do is let this dry completely. That's my iPhone. Let it dry completely and then go back to it. So I'll see you in just a few moments. So I will now start the second layer of this painting. Now, I don't know why, but the recording kind of wasn't so good, so I'm actually re-recording just this part of this second layer. And what I noticed is really, as I said, I was really focusing recently on making one good, even first wash. And the thing that you will immediately notice is that when you're laying down the next wash, it kind of just, there's no weird white spaces on it or stuff like that. And in this specific example, even my wash wasn't that
perfect because I did have some parts of it drying out on me, but still you can sort of see that it's still feels connected and like really um, even and fluid, I guess. You don't feel any weird sort of breaks in it. I do have some white spaces that I left, and I kind of thought to myself, well, just leave them. So now I'm working on all the trees in the background, and really, it's something I really want to work on actually, on my just my brush technique, which is really a basic thing, but I kind of feel like, especially in when I'm drawing horizontal lines, I get this some of the control, for me at least, is lost. It's something I'd like to improve at, and so, and also sometimes with really perfectly vertical lines, I experience it that when I try to pull down a line, let's say for a mast of a boat or something like that, you know, these lines, you kind of really want to get them to look right, and sometimes I don't, and it kind of destroys the whole feeling. Also in the book I'm reading now about composition, he talks a lot about verticals and horizontals. The author Jack Ham, he talks a lot about how vertical lines and horizontal lines sort of build the perspective. They're the basis for the any paintings or drawings perspective. And so it's something that you want to get to look good in many cases. Now what I'm trying to do is sort of make the wash more interesting. You know, I don't just want to choose one pigment and go with it, because what I found happens is that if I fill up spaces with just the same value, the same paint, it's kind of boring, you know. So I've been trying to, at least with this one, get it to be a little more interesting in the background. Probably could have made it more interesting in the middle ground or foreground. Foreground will come soon. So now I'm switching to I mixed together sepia, some of the new gamboge, this yellowy, orangey tone here. It's a bit muddy, but I'm not sure, you know, I didn't keep the pigment too pure for the entire field, like the entire right side. And I think it could be nice if it was a little purer, but I don't know, I like it that way too. Yeah, so just for the foreground, because it's filled with these blades of brown grass, something like that, so I want to already start indicating it here, even though the actual blades will be drawn on the next layer, because you want to get an under layer that sort of gives still the feeling of what you want to do in the next layer. Now, looking back at this, I would probably change the way I approached the initial wash and not leave anything white. I just thought I'd give it a shot, but I think it takes away a bit from it, so yeah. So just running some brown blades of, of wheat or grass and letting it all mix together in this layer. I think it's really helpful. Just near the part where the fields connect with the road, these are the areas that are a bit tricky, because you want to make sure that you get the rough edges where they need to be and the softer edges where they need to be. And it can be really tricky sometimes to know what type of edge will work best. So here I kind of, it's a hard edge, you know, as you can see, and I don't blend too much of it into the road. You kind of have to play around with it and find what works for you in every specific situation. I guess you really can't know sometimes what will work. I'm now making my way through the other side of the field here. And the first layer I lay down dried, so there's less of a gradation between the green in the background and this field. On the other side, on the right side, you can actually see there is, it sort of bleeds in, the green bleeds downwards towards the yellow. So yeah, you can kind of decide. I see a lot of people, when they work on the second layer, they let it be really broken into many different parts. They don't try to make it another even layer, and I still haven't mastered the approach to that. So for me, I do keep it separate, but it makes the painting sometimes a little bit more fragmented, I guess. It's I have to say, watercolor as a medium it has a lot of layers of complexity to it, and I keep learning and being surprised. Like every time I learn something new, even when I'm sure I kind of got what got an aspect of it right, I still keep being surprised all the time. Yeah, adding some lines just to pull the viewer into the distance. Um, Probably should blend some of these. I don't remember if I did. Yeah, I think I didn't. So yeah. It's really tricky sometimes to know when to blend stuff together and when not to blend them. But because light comes here from the left, I did want to make the right edge of the whole left section a little darker, just to indicate that some parts are a little more obscure. So this is what you just saw. And the gaps here, I kind of wanted to get rid of them. I felt like they weren't really necessary, and so I just filled them in. And again, it make it look a little more fragmented. The thing is that the whole values is what matters, so even if it's a bit fragmented, it's still okay.
Okay, so now we have the first two layers, and I think all that's left to do actually is just add the third one, but I think before that I want to add some shadows here on the right of this area, because the light comes from here in the image, and I just want to represent it here. My palette is a bit dirty, but I'll try sort of working with it. And I'm kind of just pulling outside like this sort of blades, and you can see it kind of makes it feel like it's shadow coming from this part here. When I'm gonna paint them a little more, obviously I'm gonna just dry brush them. It's gonna be a little more clear what's happening here. Now I'm gonna blur that a bit because it's I think it's too strong of a, yeah, like that, because I'm gonna top it off with another layer. And also I want to add a bit of just an edge here, just to have it come through that it's the edge of this part of the grass. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna now let it dry everything completely and come back and do like the final touches. Okay, so the first two layers are completely dry, and I can now go ahead and start adding those drier blades of grass or wheat or whatever they are. So I'm going to make a mixture here. I'm going to use some of the sepia, a bit of the green that's on the palette, that's fine. I'm going to use a bit of the gamboshi thing. Just gonna use that, and you know what, just for fun I'm gonna add a little bit of quinacridone rose, I think it's here, just to make it a little more red. I'm not sure what will happen, but I think a touch of red will be interesting here. So I'm gonna use this and just start in a moment pulling out some blades of grass here, like this. So now I can see it's too light, so I'm gonna make it a little stronger. It's easier to go stronger with the paint than it is to go lighter, so that's a good thing here. And now it's a bit stronger. And I'm just pulling down the lines sort of randomly. I'm starting from the bottom, but I will layer it a bit to the top like that. And you want to sort of convey that it's moving in all directions, I guess. And I'm just gonna add some like this. And I think this is good enough for the foreground. You don't need to mess around with it too much. Less is more in this case. And now I'm gonna add that other side, so I can see I need to add more paint. Sometimes the brush, the paint runs out, the paint in the brush, and it's just too dry to drop any to the paper, so you need to put it into the palette again, but then you also need to add more water because what's on the palette is also drying. So you really watercolor is really, it's just a play. You keep playing around with the amount of the pigment and the water and the different colors as well. You see here I used a bit more red. Let's use even more, and you can see how it gives it this interesting pop. I think I'm just gonna add some of that in here. I'm not worrying too much. And I will add some here also further at the back, just to give the impression that it's not just the foreground that has these, also in the background there is some, not too much though. And the last thing I want to do here is kind of, I did this one really fast actually. I'm gonna just make this shadow here a little stronger. It looks really good actually, but I kind of feel like if I make it stronger, it'll look better. So I'm really trying to figure out what type of mixture I need to do for that. So I'm gonna use a bit more of the ultramarine, like that. And sometimes it's really hard to tell. Add a bit of water, try it on the test paper. It looks good actually. I'm gonna use that one. So let's just put it in here like that. This, and I think it's good. It conveys the feeling pretty well, I think. It's considerably darker than the main parts of the road, like this. And I may blur some of that in also. Just gonna add some touches of it here to convey the movement of the road. And I'm just going to blend it just a bit along this line here. Clean the brush, blend it a bit more. And this one is pretty much done. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll just sign this one, put my name on it. I just recently found out that it was kind of idiotic of me, but I was sure that if you take a reference image and you're just painting based on it, it's considered like okay in terms of copyright. And turns out it's not. It's considered derivative. And what you want to do is have it transformative. So if you change it enough, it becomes transformative. But if it's similar, like this one is pretty similar to the reference, so it's considered. There's something here. So it's considered derivative and not transformative. So, oops. So what I'm doing now is actually painting based on reference photos that are that have no like Creative Commons. So this one's Creative Commons, so you can actually sell it later on if you want to. Just something I noticed recently, and I think it's really important to know. So yeah, just thinking where I should sign this one. I'll just do it here. It's not completely dry, but it's okay. So that's, here goes. And this is it. Before I wrap up, just thought I'd do a little bit of a handheld cam for you guys, just to feel the action and the movement. So I'm just gonna remove the tape. Doing it with one hand, I'm just so talented. Just to show you what it looks like without the thing here, without the tape. You can see clear borders. It's a really nice thing to look at, I think. I hope. And I want to show you just a comparison. Okay, there we go. I think that's good enough of an indication. Just the comparison of these two. As you can see here, the one using a not so good paper, and you can see that the paint doesn't really blend well. It just stays on the surface. This one is more of a hot pressed, kind of doesn't have too much texture, while the Arch is, I think, a million times better. So anyway, this is it. Let's wrap up. Friends, this is it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that some of the audio was a little got cut off and I had to re-record it. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to follow me here just for more awesome videos. And also Snapchat and Instagram, I'm starting to really bombard these. Tons of updates. You can see the processes of my paintings. Just a second, I'll show you. So this one was done today, and if you're following me there,
Not necessarily my best one, but if you follow me there, you can see the entire process, picture by picture. Also some of my urban sketching sessions and stuff like that. So I hope to see you there, and I will see you in another video. And thank you so much for the 2K subscribers. Like, I'm really thankful to all of you. You're the best, and I'll see you soon in another video.